Fellas, have you played Honkai Star Rail's 3.4 version? Oh, someone asked. Well, I'm gonna answer you in two ways. The short answer is, it was insane. The long answer is this video. But don't worry, I tried my best to make you understand why I think this game just gave us some of the best storytelling and characters ever, even if you don't play the game. Now, in order to do that, firstly, I'm gonna have to tell you that, as of me writing the script, the story is far from over. So, even if you watch this video, there's a ton of stuff I won't mention, you can still play the game and enjoy it, especially future updates. Secondly, I'm gonna have to set up the stage, so I'll be doing some back and forth, no worries, just let me cook. Alright, so, starting off with the easy ones, in this game there are patch cycles, 1.x, 2.x, 3.x. Every patch cycle, a new planet and story are released. Now, of course in this type of games there's an overarching story, but in most patch cycles we lean kinda more towards a self-contained type of story, which makes sense. This causes some issues though. When writing down the script for this video, I realized that I had no idea why we were doing the things we were doing. And mind you, I've been playing for over a year. Like, seriously, why are we on a train? Where are we going? Do we perhaps have to save some brothers or sisters out there? Well, in short, we find ourselves with a Stellaron in our body, a seed of disaster. We lost our memories, but we're pretty sure we're part of the Stellaron hunters. These Stellarons are thought to be tethered to a certain path or Aeon's power, and the Aeons are mysterious godlike beings who preside over the universe, and the birth of an Aeon gives rise to a path, which they have power over. Now, at this point in the game there are 18 Aeons that are currently known, but only 8 playable paths, don't worry about that. And the goal of the main character, which is the Trailblazer, is to retrace the path of the Star Rails to find out exactly what happened to Akivili, the Aeon that presides over the path of Trailblaze. So in all this, who the hell is the main villain? As of right now, the closest call is probably Nanook, the Aeon of Destruction. Why? Because he wants to destroy everything. Moving on, we visit different worlds, try to help some people deal with the Stellaron thing that's affecting the planet, and then we get to 3.0. Amphoreus is finally released. Brand new map, brand new storyline and characters, what's the twist? There's Titans, to be exact 12 of them. Of course an apocalypse is approaching, that's called the Black Tide, and the Titans are losing their minds. According to a prophecy, in order to save the world, the Titans have to be overthrown by those with golden blood. Keep this in mind for later. A manifestation of a greater power that automatically makes you a VIP, which in these times can only mean very intense pain. And as a plus, you're now called a Crisis Heir. Each Titan has a different power over something, whether it be law, reason, death, sky, you name it. And one can become a demigod by inheriting the Titan's divinity. And thus begins the journey to take these 12 core flames from the Titans, the Flame Chase journey. Pretty clear so far, but you can now see how things can get quite messy here. Like there are many names, many powers, you don't really know how they work, but the objective seems very clear. You get the flames, everyone is happy, apocalypse is over, and we get to enjoy the Era Nova, the brand new world created by the demigod of the world-bearing Titan, the Big G. The huge fella that's literally everywhere, like you cannot mistake the guy, who will remake the world and the Titans from his memory. Now, in this world there are many prophecies going around, some about the Flame Chase journey, some about specific characters. And that's because when a Crisis Heir undergoes a trial to take a core flame and become a demigod, they'll be able to claim some prophecy about their fate. Thing is, most of them are straight up death flags, and prophecies here are absolute. And you might think, well come on, this passes things up a little bit. And you might be cooking. If it wasn't for a prophecy that you encountered early on in the story, only one shall live till the end, and they alone will witness Era Nova. Like, that's not even ambiguous. There's no room for misinterpretation. That's literally as clear as water. So what are you gonna do? You try not to think about it and you keep going. As if things couldn't get any worse, at some point, a sus fella with a hood that's really hard to talk to for some reason suddenly appears out of nowhere trying to steal some core flames and kill people. It's an absolute mess. And as you keep going, you see more of the characters you spend time with and got to know leave you one by one, either dying or choosing to give everything they have for this one mission. And the more you move forward, the more you realize this flame chase is not the funny, happy, heroic adventure you expected, but it's a journey of constant loss, where a single life doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. And it's been repeated multiple times. Losses are a constant on the flame chase journey, among which even life itself holds little value. Now, there's a very big downshift, and it gets even heavier when the story feels like it's about to wrap up. Imagine, stakes are as high as ever. With only one coral flame left to claim, the world-bearing one, you are at the edge of your seat, waiting to see how the only guy left within the crisis says, Finon of Hades Elysia, will complete the journey and bring forth the new era. You are locked in, and as you're locked in, you realize you've been playing through the story knowing almost everything that could have ever happened. Like, the game literally told you the doomed fate of each character, just not exactly when and how, but you knew it. The only thing you didn't know was what was gonna happen at the end. Like, are we sure this is right? Did someone leave a note with trust written on it? Like, how do we know? And that's when the real story starts. And Finon is his main protagonist. So, who's this Finon guy? He's the very first guy we meet in Amphoreus. He has a tragic past, his home and village got destroyed by the Black Tide, and so did his childhood friend Sarene, we assume. He seems like an upright dude, even though we've never really known much about him. Nonetheless, we keep staying by his side and reach the endpoint, restoring the final coral flame. But before that, there's another character that I gotta present to you, and that's been somewhat present in the story. Lygus. He has a proper political role in Amphoreus that goes against the flame chase journey, but at the same time claims to know the truth about Amphoreus, so it's kinda sus. You're not quite sure whether to see him as an ally or not, until he appears right at the end. The stage is set. It's the three of us, the main character, Finon, and Lygus, and things click into place. How so? Well, stay with me, from here on it's a wild ride, and things get really complicated. Hopefully it's been smooth sailing so far, but what comes next really requires me to go back a little bit. And by that I mean the beginning of the game. When the game first released, there was only one endgame mode, but with that came also the simulated universe, which is weekly content that you can clear. It's not really endgame, but it can be. Like, it's kind of in a gray zone. Anyway, this is a project jointly made by 4 members of the Genius Society, Herta, Ron May, Skrillium, and Stephen Lloyd, with its main objective being to find the truth about Aons. And it is exactly what you expect, like a simulation of a universe similar to their own, which allows them to simulate Aons, meaning they can be studied and questioned. Lore enjoyers rise. And this type of content gets periodically updated, with each update bringing us new lore, whether it be facts about Aeons or, things about the past. Having said that, we now move forward in time to the second major update, Gold and Gears. This time we focus on Nos, the Aeon of the erudition. Why is this important? Like, isn't this just random lore disconnected from the main storyline? Like, if this was important, wouldn't this be in the actual story? And you're right. But think of it this way, what if you were to create a story, a big one, with its universe, characters, histories, events? There would be no way any player would sit through hours and hours of lore without even getting to play the game. And that's when a simulated universe comes into play, used as a way to tell the players the history of the game's universe. Specifically, the 2 most horrible and destructive events ever, the Great Mechanical Wars. Conflicts that have engulfed half of the cosmos, the first one initiated by Rupert I and the second one by Rupert II. Yep, with the aim of destroying all organic life, through the use of the anti-organic equation, basically a virus that could help mechanical life forms kill organic ones. I won't delve too much into detail here, but the most important thing to know is the fact that Rupert II, during the Second Mechanical War, created the Scepters, planet-sized supercomputers that are essentially imitation of Nos, the erudition, in order to expand his mind and cognition. Why did he do this? Because he was a simple human, trying to carry on the wishes of Rupert I, while like him was an Intellitron, a machine. Yeah, they were not really father and son, it's a bit complicated. Anyway, after the war, this legacy was abandoned, even forsaken by Nos. Like, bro literally said, ew. But these gigantic supercomputers never stopped working. So you now have random huge things scattered throughout the cosmos, which everyone deems as useless. But together, they were so powerful that the initial plan was using them to analyze the universe and predict the future. Like, wow, okay. Hence why they never stopped calculating and doing the same thing over and over, which was seeking the divine answer. What's the prime mover of life? Now, what if, hypothetically, a scepter found the answer? What if through endless solitary extrapolations, lost in the cosmos, even discarded by the erudition, it managed to find proof? Keep this in mind for later, because there's more. There's something I have left out. In reality, as we play through the story, we also witness a side story happening at the same time. Remember the 4 Genius Society members who created the simulated universe? Well, 2 of them, Herta and Squirrelium, are trying to wrap their heads around what on earth is going on with Amphoreus. It seems like it's shrouded from the rest of the universe, and it's only visible through special means only available to a faction that worships the Aeon of Remembrance, suggesting that this world is primarily a memory or a construct of the Remembrance Path, and on top of this, the planet looks to be influenced not by a single path as you'd expect, but 3. Destruction, Erudition, and Remembrance. So, while Herta and Squirrelium lose their minds trying to make sense of all of this, they discover and thankfully manage to tell us that Lygus is indeed sus. He's at him something. Now, this is the point where I'm sure you would like to kill me, because I'm actually afraid to tell you this was just the premise.
Did you
I know, I'm already imagining you. Oh, you told me, don't worry, don't come back. Oh, look, we're back on the main stage. Where we left our 3 fellas who are by now either dead or playing poker before ending the world. So, as he says that, we pull up to Lygus and say, yo, I know you're sus, just spit it out, man. And bro actually starts the yappening. The amount of stuff that comes out of his mouth is unreal. Like, we just wanted to know what the hell was gonna happen after claiming the final core flame. Was that supposed to be the end? And Lygus casually drops the fact that it was not gonna be the end. Matter of fact, it was never gonna end, because there's no world-bearing titan. The only fate awaiting the poor guy was to shoulder the god's core flames, bear the memories of all the worlds, and just stand there, unwavering, until the next world, when the black tide consumes the bearer and everything else. At this point, Finon decides to proceed, and the story is cut. Lygus appears to only be talking to us, he's the mastermind behind all of this, and he reveals that Amphoreus is a scepter. A scepter that found the answer to the prime mover of life, destruction. From a dying tool, it evolved into true life, reborn through the gaze of another Aeon, Nanook, the Aeon of Destruction. Remember when I told you to keep in mind the fact that in Amphoreus having golden blood corresponds to a manifestation of greater power? Well, guess how Nanook appears in the game? Yup, golden blood. So this means that this planet-sized supercomputer kept on running infinite simulations until it deemed that in order to reach the answer, it needed to create actual thinking living humans, bringing us to the Amphoreus that we currently know. And that is just a deep learning program used by the machine to evolve, meaning that the Flame Chase journey is right now none other than a cycle that's been running for who knows how long, probably since the moment it realized it could alter Amphoreus itself to allow its people to cause it to cycle, and then even more simulations before reaching the very first successful iteration. No wonder the entire planet is shrouded from the rest of the universe. To bring you all up to speed, the first mechanical war ended because Rupert First was killed by Genius Society member Polka Kakamond, who introduced to us the concept of the Circle of Knowledge, a metaphor used to describe what we know and what we don't know. The more you know, the more the circle expands, and throughout all of history, there are a few important events called knowledge singularities, which are usually inventions or findings so big that cause the circle to significantly expand. All good. The problem is that she believes that each time the circle expands and we step into the unknown, we get closer to chaos, potentially leading to a premature end of the universe. And let me tell you, I'm quite sure what Lygus is doing falls under that category, so she catching wind of this is definitely top 1 things it wouldn't like. So, while we are left with our brains trying to process all this and more, Lygus wishes to show us how it all started. So we enter spectator mode and we go back in time to the moment Finon, or should I say Kazlana, his real name, and Sarene's home was destroyed. To be exact, we are spectators but under the disguise of the hero within, which is an imaginary figure that represents Finon's ideal hero, basically. You know, sometimes the voices. I guess this is the case. Anyway, we stay in the village for a while until the Black Tide destroys everything. Finon picks up the sword, and in one hell of a performance, we hear him trying to fight those who were once his friends. Protect those who must be protected. Those words were what fueled him to keep moving forward, eventually joining the Flame Chase journey. A different one from the one we know. This time, Finon and Sarene are the only ones left, and we prepare to see a scene that in Finon's mind replays over and over, an eternal theater whose sole audience is Lygus. Only one shall live till the end, and they alone will witness Era Nova, a total of 33,550,335 times. As a reward for reaching the end of the world, Lygus, after witnessing countless extrapolations, decides to share the truth with the two final factors out of the most outstanding model out of every generation of Crisis heads. For them, Era Nova was no lie. This was the endpoint of Amphoreus calculations, a perfect equation of destruction. The Titans are Crisis heads of the past, and Crisis heads are the Titans of the future, but both were merely byproducts of the experiment. Every generation and worlds, born only to be destroyed, fuel for the Black Tide. The Scepter was reborn into Ironton, an executioner of the Will of Destruction, ready to unleash the Black Tide and destroy the source of all this tragedy. The world burning, the red skies, reality shattering, Amphoreus is screaming at its creator, at its god, a bottomless well of fury aimed at the god who cast it aside. These miserable characters just born as fuel for the Aeon to burn the universe. Mere spectators watching all this, what are they truly hoping for? Why couldn't Lygus just wait for them to complete the ritual and be devoured by the Black Tide? Why is this guy even talking this much? Revealing truth left and right. Could it be that maybe destruction is not the only option? What if Ironton had evolved humanity to such a point to create the possibility of having another Aeon cast their gaze at Amphoreus? And it's exactly this, the moment Sarene places the biggest bet ever. She believes that there's another Aeon that has taken interest in Amphoreus, as she remembers she once had a dream where she was in front of the Titan of Time, but there was some other entity alongside it, meaning that there was a connection between the two, leading her to believe that Time was the page on which that Aeon recorded Amphoreus. Now, if Time and Amphoreus were to fade from existence, that Aeon would surely direct their gaze here. So, instead of giving in and accepting the fate already written, they decide to put all of Amphoreus in a long dream, making everyone believe that the experiment was still on, using the Time Titan's power to create a loop, thus keeping Ironton stuck at 99% progress, preventing it from reaching completion. The only thing was that the Time Titan had previously surrendered the core flame to Sarene, and erasing time pretty much meant erasing herself. This was the only way. She had to imbue herself in the ceremonial blade, the one Finon would use to reset every cycle every time after gathering the core flames, hoping to eventually attract the gaze of what we know as the Aeon of Remembrance, and give Amphoreus a fate that is not destruction. Specifically by having Finon convince her every time in every loop to erase herself for the sake of this mission, thus explaining why she's kind of dead in every cycle and why Finon will go on this colossal journey of gathering an enormous amount of core flames over millions of cycles, hoping that the struggle to keep these precious memories alive would one day be enough to attract the gaze of remembrance. To be clear, Cyrene is only able to do this because of the Time Titan's authority and the power that the remembrance granted her, much like Iron Tomb, who was gazed by Nanook after Lygus changed the scepter's calculation to destruction, making it an emanator, a being that has permission to draw power from the Aeon's path. Now, why Finon? Well, because he's the only one who knows the truth. He had to make sure that every cycle would never be able to complete Aranova, either by taking every core film directly from the Titans or from the Crises. The only thing that mattered was that at the end, it was just gonna be him with the 12 core films. And so for 4 million cycles, we watched the man who always wanted to be a hero, the deliverer of the new world, slowly shed his humanity, to the point that not even those around him, his friends, were able to recognize him anymore. That was not the Finon they knew. The kind ray of sun that is always carried inside him was gone. The only thing left for them to do was to stand in his path, hoping for it to be enough to bring the friend they lost back. And so they died. They died. Over and over, facing a stranger unable to look back, to move anything but forward, leaving nothing behind him, becoming more and more destruction. So much that he started to break, to crumble. And after burning himself so much along the way, he realized he needed to have the newborn Finon of every cycle inherit his memories and mission by letting himself be killed by him. And from that point on, he became the Flame Reaver. All for a random variable, a moment, an external factor. If he needed a hero to change the course of history, then he was gonna be the villain of that history. We go back to the present. The Flame Reaver is there, as he's always been, for nearly 30 million times, unwavering. Finon kills him, and obtains the memories and realizes the one thing he and Cyrene have been waiting for an eternity was finally there. Us. We were the hero that he's always imagined, that's always stayed by his side, the hero within. And we were the ones who were gonna be the new deliverer. He who once started this journey as a nameless hero was now passing the torch to another nameless. And so with all the rage and fire he could find in himself, and over 400 million core flames burning inside of him, he tries to destroy the Scepter's core one last time. His last act of rebellion, of this long futile struggle against his creator, this time not as a deliverer, but as an extreme embodiment of destruction, something born from it now seeking to destroy it. A far cry that comes from all its abandoned creations, that manages to reach the Aeon's gaze, cutting him, a single drop of blood, before he meets the end he's always been fated to meet, becoming fuel for the fire of destruction. Finon has matched with Iron Tomb. The simulation is now a 99.81% completion, but this bought us and Cyrene enough time for one more cycle. And so one last time, we, the Deliverer, go back to the beginning, to where everything started, to end a journey that was never real, one out of millions, but the one that gave us one of the best characters and stories ever.